Welcome back to the Cohn Zone. We're the Cohns, Lowell Cohn, Grant Cohn. It's been about 6 months since we've been together on a show. And so today, what we're going to do is get my dad's thoughts on a lot of the things that have been happening, are happening, will be happening. And we'll have a conversation about it. But Dad, you're the star today. It's really nice to have you back. Good to see you look good.
To be back, Iggy. It's nice to be doing this. And hello, everybody. I've been following, and the story that I find the most compelling right now is what's going on with Deebo Samuele. So I'd like to talk a little about it and then get Iggy's input. First of all, I think the Niners are going to extend him. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they're not going to extend him or that he will end up on another team for draft choices. He is really a phenomenal player. And I think it would be insane not to keep him on the roster. So if you actually have the other point of view, we can make a bet right now.
No, we agree on that. We agree. It's good to get that on the table. We totally agree.
Okay.
Yes.
Having said that, I object to how he's comported himself. And I'd like to talk a little about it.
Okay.
Generally, when there are money disputes between ownership and a player, I'm on the player's side.
Yes.
Okay. Not in this case. And I'd like to say why. Deebo Samuele initially said he wanted to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. I find that
he didn't say it out of his own mouth, but it was reported by Clarence Hill Jr., who's extremely connected. So that's
okay. Thank you for correcting that, and that's important. Yes. So let's say it's reported, and he didn't say that he didn't say it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's been reported he wanted to be the highest paid player. So what immediately that says to me is that for him, this is not about money. This is about ego.
Right.
Because one way or another, I'm sorry?
Validation.
Let's call it ego.
Sure.
The Niners are going to make him a very rich person. Mm-hmm. They're going to make him rich for the rest of his life and probably for generations to come.
Yes.
One way or another, he's going to be so rich we can't even imagine it. Okay? Yes. But that's not good enough. At least when that was reported, that wasn't good enough. He had to be the highest paid non-quarterback, meaning more than money. I want my ego stroked. And I want to tell you something. When I was a young man and became sort of well-known, I would be in San Francisco and my face was on the side of buses and all this. And I was a young, and about your age, Iggy. And I went to my head. And
how could it not?
Right. I did some crazy schmucky things out of ego and pride that I wish I could take back.
Okay.
And what I've learned in my 8th decade now, what I've learned is if you follow your ego, it's a wrong direction. And it's going to get you in trouble. There are people in that locker room, I'll tell you right now, who are saying, "Why he's not going to make enough money? He has to be the highest paid." What is his deal?
He had to go public with it. That's the other thing.
Had to go public.
It's one thing to want it. It's another thing to like go public about it and be like, "It's April 12th and I'm not paid yet. What the hell?" I mean, that's not exactly what he's done, but it's sort of like he's making noises.
Yeah. And what I find it is greedy. I find it there's a lot of people after the pandemic, a lot of businesses closed. A lot of people are struggling for money. And this guy's pissed because he won't be the highest paid. Then he said, or someone said for him, $25 million. So now he's already negotiating against himself. He's got an agent. The agent is supposed to be doing this stuff. So here's what I feel about him.
Yes.
He's 26 years old. I checked it out. 26 is very young. When I was 26, I was not a fully formed adult. He is even young for 26. He strikes me, the way he's handling himself, as extremely juvenile. It doesn't take away from his fantastic ability as a player or as I have no idea what kind of teammate he is. I think I would want him on my team, but I think someone should tell him to be quiet a little and let your agent handle this stuff. What do you think, Iggy?
I think you bring up great points. Let me try to complicate the matter. I think it's possible this is his agent's strategy because Kyler Murray's doing the same thing down in Arizona. It seems to be the next strategy. It's like instead of requesting a trade, just kind of do stuff on social media that gets the point across that you can deny. This little tiny thing. So this might be like an agent thing. I have no idea. But what makes this complicated is that, okay, you say Deebo Samuele is greedy and egotistical for wanting to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league. Fine. All these players are greedy and egotistical, Dad. Even the ones you think aren't. Like, for example, Fred Warner, great guy, right? He wanted to be the highest paid middle linebacker in the league last year, and the Niners made it happen for him off of 2 elite seasons. Kittle wanted to be the highest paid tight end in the league. In fact, he wanted wide receiver money and settled for highest paid tight end in the league because, I mean, people said at the time, well, he's doing it for tight ends. He's doing it so other tight ends get paid in the future. He's doing it for himself. It's for his ego. Right. Also, the Niners made Jimmy Garoppolo the highest paid player, not just quarterback, player in the league with a no trade clause, $27 million annually off of 7 starts. So they have this history. Now Deebo comes in and says, look, I'm sorry. This is the going rate for wide receivers. Now, it may not be what you wanted to pay, but this is it. This is the rate. Do you want to have the highest paid wide receiver? Do you want to have a top level wide receiver in the league or not? Because you want to have a top level middle linebacker, a top level left tackle, a top level tight end. This is what it costs. And I'm not really a big fan of the social media stuff that Kyler and Deebo are doing. I think it's childish, as you said. But really, for him to want to be the top paid wide receiver in the league, Jerry Rice would. Every good athlete would want that.
Okay. He didn't say he wanted to be the top paid wide receiver in the league.
Non-quarterback. It's the same thing though right now. It's the same thing right now. But anyway, it's $30 million. It's a lot of, and $70 million guaranteed, Dad. The Niners have never given out more than $48 million guaranteed to win to Jimmy.
You know what I would do if I were the Niners? And again, I'm on the Niners side on this. I'm not on his side. I don't like the way he's acting. I would say you don't have to do jack for you.
Yeah.
You're under contract. Yeah. Shut up. Let us negotiate, or we'll just go along with your contract, and next season you'll make $3 million.
Whew. Yep, they could definitely do that. They could say, we'll offer you something that we think is fair. Let's call it $22 million a year. If that's not good enough for you and you need 25, 26, 30 to satisfy your ego, play out your rookie deal, buddy, and we'll talk about it next year. And what you run the risk of, the Niners, again, have never done this. They have never held a player hostage for a lame duck year. They traded Buckner instead of doing that, and they've extended all these players early. They've set a precedent. So they would break the precedent because of the way Deebo's acting so publicly. Hey, you want to air out the laundry publicly, then we're going to spite you. Is it worth it?
I think they're going to sign him. I think they're going to sign him, but I certainly would threaten it. I'd hold it over his head. He's made this a hardcore negotiation. True. And he's brought it public. I would hold it over his head. And the other thing, what about the franchise tag?
They could always do that down the line. It's true. They have all the leverage here. And it's like, from their perspective, if you want to make this public and show how unhappy you are, then we can leak public about how we could trade you, or, like we could do all kind of stuff. So this isn't going to get handled until August anyway. So they're probably going to really stick it to deep, make him uncomfortable for the next couple months.
I would.
Yes.
If I were Parag Marathe, I would make him uncomfortable for the next few months. I certainly would. Is
it possible that Parag and the Niners are like, good, he's cracking. Look at him. He's on social media. It's only April and he's getting upset. Like, this has got 2 more months.
I think that probably, you got to remember, Parag has been through this hundreds of times. Right. He has a lot more experience of this than Deebo, who I'm saying is a very young 26. I'm thinking, I'd say he's about 22, really, emotionally. I've never met him, just from what I'm seeing. I think Parag must be giggling a little bit. That's how I feel.
I mean, if you compare what Deebo's, like Nick Bosa's up for an extension as well. I think most people assume both guys would get it this year. Bosa's not saying anything, doing anything he's just being quiet, being silent, and not doing anything that the Niners could use against being, I don't know what you would call like professional. Is Nick Bosa. I don't know, but it seems like he is doing it the exact opposite way. And he's probably going to get the money. Although I would argue that I would rather have Deebo than Nick Bosa long-term. That's just me though.
I understand. I'd rather have both of them long-term. They're both terrific. The idea is to have both of them, and they're both elite players and bring things that are completely unusual to that team. So I would like to have both of them. I find this very interesting. I think the Niners have all the power in the situation with Deebo, and he's flailing around publicly, looking bad because he knows in this case he's impotent.
Yeah, there's not much players can do. There's really not much they can do. It's just interesting. The Niners have always maintained like their family. They're really close. They're all about the team. And this is really blowing a hole. And he's their best player. And he's really upset. He's acting a little bit like Terrell Owens, and the Niners don't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess they do. Maybe they do know how to handle it. It's just a bad look for the organization where they've had multiple bad looks all off season. And we're going to talk about some of those coming up.
That. I think this is a worse look for Deebo than for the organization. That's how
fair.
I feel.
That's fair.
That's fair. Again, usually I'm on the side of the player. Iggy, no matter, let's say he wants 25 million. Let's say he gets only 20 million. Let's say, okay,
right.
I'm sure he'll get more, but let's say he gets only 20 million for 1 year. I'm supposed to feel sorry for him? I mean, really, fans, I'm not a fan, but fans say, oh, he's getting screwed. He's only getting 20 million. You know what? Screw me. Give me 20 million. I'd like to get screwed. There's no way that I have any empathy for him. 20 million is a lot of money.
I mean, it's fair for him to want to get what he's worth, but I think at the same time, it's fair for the Niners to not want to change precedence with how they do these extensions. So, like, just because a player gets upset and impatient, the Niners are going to cave in April and give him whatever he wants. Well, that'll hurt them in the next negotiation. They've made it a precedent that, like, they will take care of their players, and they're probably going to take care of Deebo, to your point, but not on April 12th, not on your terms. You're going to have to sweat it out until the day before training camp. Kittle had to, Warner had to, all of them had to. So I guess that's just what Deebo's going to have to do. Sorry.
Iggy, they play 17 games. I'm not good at math. If he's earning 20 million, how much is that per game?
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money per game, right?
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And but again,
like
I don't have a problem.
Sorry,
go ahead. You go ahead. You haven't talked in 6 months.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd like to have. I don't want to have one of his games.
Yes.
I'd like a quarter.
Yes.
Could I have the money he's going to earn in any quarter of any game? I'd be very happy. I would. I'd put a hot tub in this house.
I don't mind the ego. Like, I mean, I feel like they all have egos. Didn't Bill Walsh once tell you something about, maybe he didn't, about egos and players, or how
Jimmy Lefevre, when he was a coach. That's very good that you remembered it. Jimmy Lefevre said it's very important for the big hitter to have an ego. He was talking about Canseco. He said it's, Canseco has a really big ego, but he has to. He has to go up there and beat a pitcher. And he said, I always cater to a superstar's ego. So that's the other side of the story. Yes.
And it feels like the Niners are trying to take their best player down a peg. I like that Deebo looks at himself as the best non-quarterback in the league. I think he is too. I think he's as good as he thinks he is. So, I mean, if you're going to play hardball in negotiations, why not start there? You can always meet in the middle. What I do think we totally agree on is the social media stuff is totally juvenile, and it might hurt him in the negotiation also.
Yeah, it's juvenile, and it gives him a very bad look. This is business, and he needs to act like a businessman or allow his agent. But I don't know his agent. You're saying his agent may be encouraging him. We don't know. If so, he needs another agent.
It's true, because again, a quarterback in Arizona, Kyler Murray, doing the same thing. So is this Deebo emulating him and players going rogue, or agents saying, oh, this is – because look, ever since he did it, at least on my channel, all we do is talk about Deebo Samuele 24/7. So maybe that's what they wanted, as opposed to Jimmy.
What they wanted, but I don't think – I know Parag, and I don't think he's going to be intimidated or influenced by that. I can't speak for Lynch. I don't know him anymore. I never met Kyle, but I know Parag pretty well, and I don't think he'd be intimidated by that.
No, Parag's been doing this like as long as Deebo's been alive.
Yeah.
Rick, thanks for becoming a member. Brian says Lowell is so right on this. Deebo wanting too much too soon. His career doesn't compare to Devontae Adams or Tyreek, and he wants more. See, I'm saying, like, the way that Deebo has conducted himself, he's divided the fan base. A lot of fans are not happy with what he's doing. He didn't get really everyone on his side the way he could have, should have. I don't know. Michael says, I have a hard time with white men telling young black men how much money they should be able to negotiate. And if you don't know him, why call him childish? Oof, Michael,
You
what
know
do you
what?
think, Dad?
I just called him childish, and I'm entitled to my opinion, and you're certainly entitled to your comment. Thank you.
I don't know. I think when you start doing stuff on social media, it is pretty childish. But then again, I'm pretty childish on social media all the time. So I don't know.
I can't help being a white man. I've been a white man my whole life, and I honestly believe I'm entitled to my opinions, and I don't see how this issue is a racial issue.
Okay, let's move on to the quarterback who's still on the team.
Oh.
I don't think 6 months ago, last time we did a show, you would have expected this. What do you think about the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo, it's April 12th, 2022, and Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster?
I think it's a tremendous failure of leadership of the 49ers. And I want to be really, really clear about this. Jimmy Garoppolo is not good enough. He's a pretty good quarterback with tremendous deficiencies. He seems like a good teammate and a very nice man. I've never met him. But he is not good enough to get this team where it should want to go, which is to a Super Bowl victory. They have not had a Super Bowl victory since 1995. They have never had a Super Bowl victory under this York regime. Mm-hmm. This kid was a good stopgap.
Yeah.
But he is not good enough. And they should have gotten rid of him a long time ago.
Yeah.
As you know, Iggy, last week I was in contact with a former 49ers assistant coach who was on the Bill Walsh squads. He told me a couple of things. He said, first of all, Bill never would have wanted, in his opinion, Bill never would have wanted Jimmy because he's not good enough. Bill would have been frustrated with Jimmy because he couldn't. Bill saw in his mind how the game would play and what the quarterback. Yeah. He had Joe Montana and Steve Young, what they would do.
Right.
Jimmy can't do those things. And no. Bill, who could be very caustic and had the highest standards, never would have had him. Or if he had him, he would have dumped him like he did Steve DeBerg. There's no question in my mind. And there was no question in this coach's mind. The other thing, I'm going to bring the other one up later. But
we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty clear that like if Jimmy Garoppolo was good, not even great, good, the Niners probably would have won a Super Bowl the last few years. I mean, they had everything. They had the defense. They had the weapons at wide receiver, tight end. They had the run game. What did they not have? They didn't have the quarterback. And I think statistically, like of all the quarterbacks who've ever been in the playoffs, his the worst passer rating in the fourth quarter of any quarterback ever in the playoffs. So, yeah, it's him. And that's people. The Niners keep saying he's a good quarterback. We're not going to trade him. He's mediocre at best. We've been calling him that for years. He's serviceable at best.
If they say he's a good quarterback, they know they're fibbing.
Because they're fibbing.
He's not a good quarterback. He's what you say. We say serviceable plus. He's a C. He's a C minus. He's a C plus. Some games he's a D.
Exactly. You know, he's a C with an asterisk because he's injury prone and he's kind of expensive too.
Yeah. And if I were a player in that locker room, and believe me, players talk all the time, just like people at every job talk about their bosses. What is the direction of our team? Who is our quarterback? Why haven't they made a decision? Why not? They don't have a direction at quarterback yet.
No, they don't.
They don't have the direction. And how do you think the wide receivers and the tight ends and the linemen think about, gee, we don't have a direction at quarterback, but let's go get him. Let's go out there and get him.
Who do we work out with this offseason? Am I supposed to call Trey Lance or Jimmy? Trey Lance is working out with some of the wide receivers. Where the hell is Jimmy? I mean, is Jimmy supposed to lead something? I mean, have they told him? What is he supposed to do as a leader of this team? They haven't told anyone.
That's right. So they have left their players in a very untenable position. And as much as I was on their side, am on their side about Deebo, not this. Listen, I'll give you an example. The Rams went out and got Stafford. They showed they were decisive. They got him and won the Super Bowl. And if I'm in that locker room, I'm saying, how come we didn't get Stafford or somebody like that?
Right, because with the Rams, it was made a drastic move. Goff, you're not good enough. You're out.
Yeah.
We're bringing in someone else. The Niners were like, Jimmy, you're not good enough, but you're staying. and we're getting someone else, but we're not going to play him. But you're on notice, buddy. You're not good enough, but you're also our starting quarterback. We have no confidence in you, but we want you to take us to the Super Bowl. Like, what kind of mixed message is that? The Rams don't do stuff like that.
No.
God love them.
Yeah. And what I want to say is not only the Rams, good organizations don't do stuff like that. I'm not in with the Niners, but I'd like to know who's the brain trust who figured this out. What a bad look for a franchise. And here's the point. This isn't the Denver Broncos, who, by the way, went out and got a great quarterback. This is the San Francisco 49ers. They're at the level of the New York Yankees. They're an iconic franchise in sports in America, and they're acting like confused high schoolers.
Yeah. And so my question to you is, I know it's impossible to know, but you covered all of Eddie DeBartolo, and you know what the team used to be like. What would he have done in this situation? I mean, where's the leadership here? Where's the urgency?
Yeah. Eddie, first of all, Eddie would have talked to Bill. And the two of them would have, you know what would have happened?
What?
They would have gotten rid of Jimmy first of all, they probably wouldn't ever have taken Jimmy. They wouldn't have given him all that money after 5 games because Bill would have seen what he was. And you know what they would have done? They would have got Stafford.
Yeah.
They would have gone out and got Stafford.
Probably.
They went out and got Steve Young.
Yes. They got someone who was a veteran.
They had Joe Montana, and they got Steve Young. And Joe and Steve had, I don't say they disliked each other, but it was a competitive, uncomfortable relationship. Bill didn't care. Eddie didn't care. I want the 2 best quarterbacks. We'll work it out. They would have gone and got Matthew Stafford. They wouldn't have. They are floundering right now. And I find it amazing.
And there's so many different ways to interpret it. One is that they're down. They don't believe in Trey Lance. One is that they're so small-minded. They think getting a draft pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, like a comp pick next year, just when he leaves, is more important than any salary cap money they could create right now. I mean, there's a million different ways to interpret it, but it just looks like the team has no direction.
Yeah, another way to interpret it is incompetent.
Incompetent.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
On day 1 of the regular season, do you believe Jimmy will be on the roster?
I do.
Ooh, I don't.
Do you? Oh, let's bet a bottle of wine here. Let me explain why I think he will be. And I usually lose these bets with you. So let's just I'm prepared to lose. But why I think Jimmy will be on this team week 1, I don't think there's a trade market for him.
Are you there?
I don't think. Can you hear me? Did I lose you? Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Okay. So I don't think he's getting traded. I don't think there's a trade market for him, and I don't think they have the guts to cut him.
Okay, I want to tell you why I don't think he'll be on the roster for day 1, game 1, because I don't think anybody could be that stupid. I love
that.
I don't think.
I think the Niners could be. I guess I do think they could be. But I hope you're right. Because keeping him week 1 would be as stupid as trading Deebo, right?
Yes, it would be really stupid. And that really leads us to our next topic about how they botched the quarterbacks. But we want to make a bet first. And I know what I want to bet.
Let's bet.
I'm getting into light French red wines because as an old man, and I love Beaujolais.
There you go.
So whoever loses the bet owes the other guy a Beaujolais of at least $35. Are you guys hearing this?
Yeah. Well, your stepson, my brother, Brian Strauss, says, great to see my 2 favorite guys back in action together. Welcome back. Doc Beaujolais on me, guys, to celebrate. I can't wager my brother's Beaujolais, though. I will get my own Beaujolais and put it up.
Okay, so let's clarify the bet. The bet is I'm saying Jimmy will not be on the roster for game 1 of the regular season, and you say he will be.
He will be.
It's a very clear bet, and we have witnesses.
And I'm going with this because I'm cynical. Somehow I'm much more cynical than my 76-year-old father. I don't know how it happened. You raised me this way, Dad. It's your fault.
I know. You know what? I did a lot of bad things in raising you.
It's all your fault.
Joshua
says, sorry?
I'm make up for it now.
If Joshua says if Deebo is the franchise, why isn't that an indictment of Kyle? Isn't the formula to have Kyle manufacture an offense and spend the money on a defense? That's like saying Bill Walsh should have traded Roger Craig and Jerry Rice and focused on defense. I mean,
no, you got to have both. It's a full team.
You got to have the horses. Matthew says, Lowell, good to see you back. Thank you for reminding the younger viewers what the standard of organization ought to be. Super Bowl victories, not Moneyball, says Matthew. Isaiah says, I've been on vacation for 3 weeks. What did I miss? Nothing. Deebo Samuele, unhappy, reportedly. Although that's unconfirmed. He may not be talking about football. He could always say that. Will says, Grant, I apologize because I thought you was tough on the team, but Pop is a lot tougher on the team than you. And I'm all here for it. Salute, Pop.
Thank you.
Justin says, even when their Deebo and Jimmy situation gets resolved, should someone still be fired for how long it's taken?
I don't have an opinion on that. I don't really care.
Yeah. Let's see how it gets resolved. All right. Next topic. Still quarterbacks. Tell me why you think the Niners have bungled the quarterback situation.
Geez. Again, I was in contact last week with a coach on Bill Walsh's staff, and he said to me, Lowell, the Niners gave up 3 first-round picks and more.
And a third.
Gave up 3 first-round picks and a third for a guy from Division II.
Yeah.
Who had only played 1 game his final season.
Yes.
He said, Bill never would have done that. He said, it's disproportionate. It hurts the rest of the team. And he said, look.
Yeah, Bill was more likely to trade down, right?
That's what he did.
Yeah.
In 1986.
And when he traded for Young, he traded a second and a fourth, something like that. When he traded for Steve. Yeah.
And he said, Bill, it's too valuable, those picks. And for someone from Division II and who'd only played 1 game his final season, he said it couldn't have happened. And this coach felt, again, it's bungling it. It's and beyond that, look, I know that you're pretty positive about Trey Lance. You've seen him much more than I have. But from my point of view, at least from the experience I've had covering football, there's no guarantee that Trey Lance is going to be Aaron Rodgers.
I agree.
Or Russell Wilson.
I never said he's going to be Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But in my opinion, that's a pretty low bar.
Low bar. So
pretty low bar. Yeah.
And what's compounds it is the Niners themselves don't seem to have confidence in him.
That's the problem.
They don't seem to have confidence. They traded all that for him, and they sort of talked around it when people asked later on when they weren't playing it. Well, we're playing Jimmy. Then what'd you get this guy for?
And it's not just that. It's like you gave up everything for him. You traded way more than you should have for really a veteran Pro Bowler. You gave it up for someone who was totally unproven from a small conference, and then you lost your nerve.
That's what happened. And Iggy, I want to tell you something. I have rarely seen a pro team in any sport mismanage a situation like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, I don't know, what did the Rams give up for Stafford? They gave up Goff.
2 first-round picks in Goff. 2 first-round picks in Goff. The Niners gave up 3 first-round picks and a third for a guy who came from, again, I like him very much, but when you give up that much, you should be getting Deshaun Watson at 26. You know what I mean? That's what the Browns gave up for Deshaun Watson. And the Browns can be like, hey, at least we know Deshaun Watson is a top 7 quarterback in the league. The Niners can't say with that that's why they played Jimmy last year, because they're like, we really don't know what Trey is, so we'll start our quarterback who's maybe the 20th best quarterback in the league. Maybe.
And you don't give up all that draft capital for someone that you don't know about. We don't really know. We were surprised. We thought he'd be better than he is. Well, it was your responsibility to know. It was not your responsibility to guess. And again, I come from the team that Eddie ran, that Bill ran, that George Seifert ran. They weren't taking guesses. I mean, they missed on some players, but man, they were right a lot of the time. Look at the 1986 draft. It was just brilliant what they did. I haven't seen that from the 49ers ever. And so, as of today, their quarterback situation is a muddle. It's a muddle. They have one guy who's a veteran who's not good enough, and they have another guy who's really like a rookie again, who they don't know enough about. And you don't learn about them in practice. I don't care what they say. And they say, oh, now he's more mature, he's better, he's more accurate. They found that out in practice?
Hold on, then name him the starter. Name him the starting quarterback then. Get rid of Jimmy. Cut Jimmy if he's ready. Until they cut Jimmy, they're saying that they're not 100% sure, and maybe they want a fallback option. And
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. And it doesn't help Trey Lance because, again, you're not just having him compete with some guy. You're having him compete with the guy who everyone in the locker room loves, the guy who's the leader of the team. How can Trey Lance just tell everyone, hey, I'm the leader now? Unless he's far and away better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And how is he going to even prove that? In practice? He's inexperienced. I mean, I think probably what's going to happen if they have a quarterback competition this offseason, there'll be days that Trey looks better. There'll be days that Jimmy looks better. So what do? I'll probably go with Trey because he could improve and Jimmy won't. But what are they going to do?
I want to tell you an old story that relates to this, and it's about, Trey Lance trying to lead the team if Jimmy were still on the roster.
Yeah.
One game years and years ago, Joe Montana had to come out during the game for some reason. And Steve Young came off the sideline and he got in and he started telling, we're going to do this, in the huddle. Well, one of the players in the huddle said to me, who the hell was he to tell us that?
Yeah.
Who the hell was he? Joe, it was Joe's team. This is talking about Steve Young.
Yeah.
And I went to one of the coaches and I said, this is what a player told me. And the coach said, oh boy, Joe earned that respect over years. You don't just walk into a huddle and get it. And that's what Trey Lance is facing.
Right. It's from Steve's perspective, he has to show I can command this huddle.
Yeah.
I have to command. It's part of it's part of the job, but it's really actually a socially delicate thing. This is not your team, dude. If they had drafted you and Joe weren't here, then yes, you would do that. But it's not your team. And so what? How is Steve supposed? Was he supposed to be? Hey guys, if it's all right with you, I would really like to do this. I mean, there's nothing. He can't win that situation, right?
He was in a bad situation, but that
he's
really
either coming on too strong or he's too mean. He's not a leader. He's too much of a leader. I mean, you got to pick a quarterback.
Hey, Iggy, this brings me to a side issue, but what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
The reason a player told me that was because I went in the locker room, and because of COVID, have not been in the locker room for 2 years. 2 years. So when you go into a locker room, you learn things.
Yes.
Guys will say, hey, Lo, come over here. I want to tell you something. I mean, I had that happen a lot. I had phone numbers. Lo, can I give you my phone number? Or could I have your phone number? Can we talk tonight? Things like that. So you're going to be going back in the locker room, and I can't tell you how important that is. Yes. I also have told you, we've already mentioned, but I'm going to tell our viewers, you're very controversial. You're probably the most controversial guy who covers them on a daily basis. There may be some flack when you go in there.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, certainly.
I've had flack before.
Yeah. And my only advice is if a player starts yelling at you, you allow him to do it because you've had your say.
That's true.
And it's fair to equal the scales.
Yep.
And you don't even argue. You know, whatever he says. And then when it's over, you say, okay, you've had your say. Would you like to talk? Now, some of them will. Some of them will say, get the hell out of my face. And you say, okay, maybe we'll talk another time. But you've been a gentleman and you've allowed him to ventilate, and he'll come back to you later on.
That's cool. Look, I think that could happen. I think I'm anticipating a slightly different thing, though, because it was different in the 80s and 90s. I feel like that was a much more verbally aggressive, contentious era.
Yeah.
And now, like, these are kids younger than me, and they do a lot of their fighting online and in person. It's not a lot of yelling. So I've had conversations in the locker room with Jaquaski Tart and Dante Pettis, but they've always been very respectful. Like Dante Pettis was like, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep saying this? And Jaquaski Tart, like, why are you so focused on my name? Like, usually these players who were born in like 1995, are really nice and sensitive. And so I don't know if they're all like that, but players are different these days. I come across like, am I bullying you? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. So anyway, if Mike McGlinchey were to talk to me or Eric Armstead, I think they'd probably do it with like class and stuff and make me feel bad. But anyway, I'm ready for whatever.
Yeah, I want to prepare you for the worst case scenario.
I'd like to see what Deebo says if he comes up to me and says, why are you making everything about football? Why are you assuming that? Dude, we all think that, man. Why did you block me?
Yeah, what is it about? The opera?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Louise says, I missed that New York accent and honest view. Welcome back, Lowell.
Thanks.
Rick says, I think Deebo got his recognition from being a wide back. If we had a quarterback that could throw him the ball, we wouldn't need him to run the ball. Trade him for DK and get us a real threat. Oh boy. Let me just tell you, from what I heard, because I have connections too, that DK was really unprofessional in Seattle this past year. Because what happened was they got rid of the wide receiver coach that he was tight with and made Pete Carroll's son the wide receiver coach. And DK apparently wasn't having that and didn't really pay attention in meetings. Now that guy's gone. He's in a new position, and they brought the old wide receiver coach back. So maybe there's a chance for DK. But I got sources too. Just saying. DK. Welcome back, Lowell, says Janet Ortiz.
Thanks, Janet.
All right. Next topic.
Hold on. I'm looking.
I'd like to know your thoughts on the Niners roster compared to the end of last season. Think they're better or worse?
Worse. I mean, does anyone think they're better?
I don't think
they're
so.
better on special teams, and,
Yes.
and mazel tov. It's good to be better on special teams. But let me just say again, as an outsider looking in, they haven't resolved the quarterback situation, which is very bad.
Yes.
In fact, I can't even say how bad it is. That's how bad it is. Their offensive line is not as good as it was.
That's correct.
They lost the left guard,
Yes.
Laken Tomlinson.
Yes.
He moved people. He's good. He was good.
He's good.
I don't know what's happening on the right tackle. And listen, it's not a very glamorous group, the offensive linemen, but boy, are they important. They might be the most important unit on a football team, the offensive line.
Maybe.
Because if they can't function, you can't run and you can't pass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have to have the best offensive line in the league, but you can't have the worst. And
you have
the
to
Niners,
have a good one.
Yeah, they have a good one, and the Niners have a great left tackle and 4 question marks.
Yeah, and Iggy, Elijah Mitchell's a really impressive running back, but they don't have a breakaway running back with breakaway speed.
No, his longest run last year was 39 yards.
Yeah, so okay, so I'm still not so sure about their pass rush.
Yeah.
I mean, Bosa's terrific. Who do they got with Bosa?
They got Eric Armstead. They lost Arden Key. They lost DJ Jones. They have Samson Ebukam, Charles Amenahu. I mean, kind of like Dollar General additions. Also, they made a big addition in the secondary. They brought in this cornerback, Trevarius Ward. He helps the coverage, but they also lost Jaquaski Tart and K'Wan Williams. So are they better in coverage? Yeah. I don't know. They're worse in run defense. They're probably worse in pass rush because they lost Arden Key. They're worse on the offensive line. Maybe they'll improve at quarterback. I think they will, but that's to be determined. Yeah. Unless Trey Lance totally does unless Trey Lance has the Matthew Stafford effect on this team. This is a team that squeaked into the playoffs last year. Barely was 10-7. Now they have a much more difficult schedule, and they've gotten worse at like 4 or 5 positions. Could be an 8-win team. Could be a 7-win team.
And what I want to say is, again, it comes back to the management. If they think that this is a Super Bowl ready team, they're self-deluding. They're delusional. I'm not in their meetings. Maybe they're saying, we're really flawed. But if they think this group that they have now is as good as last year or is ready to go aggressively toward the Super Bowl, I don't agree. I really don't agree with that.
I got a theory. I think they agree with you. I think they're looking at this team and saying, you know what? We got to make this transition to Trey Lance now, but we don't know what we have in him. And instead of being aggressive in free agency with this unknown quarterback, let's give him a year to get his feet underneath him, pretty much do what we should have done last year, and then make a move next year, which means that the Niners are kind of in wait and see mode more than win now mode.
They should have been in wait and see mode last season.
I agree. And you were in favor of Jimmy Garoppolo starting at the beginning of the season, but even you said at the bye week at the latest, how are you not making this switch?
Wait a minute. I wasn't in favor. I said he would.
You predicted. That's true. That's true. You weren't in favor of Jimmy starting. I forgot that.
I just said this is what they're going to do.
Because you have wisdom.
I have, you know what, Iggy? I in my 76 years, I have this much wisdom. I used to have
more than I got. It was enough to win that bet.
Okay. I got a question for you. Hold on.
Yes.
He sends me a cheat sheet early in the morning. I got my cheat sheet. Do you want to get into the draft?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this. What do they need in the draft? Now you're going to be in Vegas for the draft, right?
I will be. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'll be there on the in the workroom. It'll be a lot of fun.
There's a workroom.
Yes. I have no idea. I imagine there's a press workroom. I'm excited to see what it is. I have no idea how this works, but I'll have a credential.
Okay. So I got two questions. What do they need? And in each case, could you name a potential player they might draft?
Okay. Let me go slow here. I think they need a lot of stuff, but they need a safety, they need a nickelback, they need a guard, they need a center, they need a tackle. They could probably use another wide receiver. They could probably use it. They need a lot of things. But one need in particular I think is really interesting. You and I have talked a lot about how losing Mostert's a big deal. And a lot of people don't agree because he didn't play much last year and the Niners were pretty good without him. But Mostert was very important to this team when he was healthy because he was exactly what they don't have, the big play, explosive running back.
Yeah.
And without him, they need to play their, all-pro wide receiver at the position. And that's not what they want to do that much. So I think running back is actually a very big need for this team. Elijah Mitchell's good, but he gets hurt a lot and he's not that explosive. I wouldn't be surprised if their first pick this year, and they don't have a first round pick, so their second round pick is a running back if it's someone that they think is like the best guy in the draft. And Roger Craig was a second round pick. Ricky Waters was a second round pick. Do you remember what Bill Walsh said to you one time in the early 90s when the Niners were struggling and Steve Young was the quarterback? Do you remember that?
Was he the coach?
No.
He said to me, "Where's the effing running back?"
You can say it.
I don't want to.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, where's the effing running back?
Yeah,
this was Bill Walsh.
He was talking about the Niners. We were on the phone, and he was really pissed. And he's, "Where's the effing running back?" Yeah,
and I believe they went and got Ricky Waters probably the next year in round 2.
Yeah.
So if you can find a real, and here's the thing about running back, he's got to be useful as a receiver. I think Bill Walsh understood that. He can't just be someone you have on the field for first and second down and then take him off the field at third down because he doesn't catch passes or block. So he's got to be someone that you get 3 downs of value out of. But if you find someone that's a good receiver and really explosive as a running back and he's available at 61, that's not a bad pick. In fact, that could be a total game changer for the 49ers next year. So there's a guy named Breece Hall. Not Bryce, Breece. He went to Iowa State. He ran a 4.39. He had 5 touchdowns of 75 plus yards in his career. It's the kind of guy, and he's a very good receiver. So he may not be available at 61. I don't think the Niners will trade up for him. But if he's there, he absolutely could be the best player available. And you don't think of it being smart taking a running back that high, but if he's the right kind of player, I think you absolutely can justify it.
Love
it. That's one.
Name another position.
Well, there's guard. But you could argue that, a running back is more valuable to a team than a guard. I think the secondary, they never take secondary guys in the second round. But we've talked about this for a long time, but there's starting to be some stats that back it up. Coverage is the most important thing on defense now. Coverage, not run defense, not pass rush, coverage, because the ball comes out quicker and quicker every year. The quarterback stands in the shotgun. There's 3 wide receivers on the field. The ball comes out, and now it's about people, linebackers and safeties and cornerbacks making tackles or covering people. So the Niners got a good corner this year, but they lost Jaquiski Tartt and K'Wan Williams. They need more guys in the secondary. And if they could draft a safety, they could take a guy named Jaquan Brisker. They could take a guy named Brian Cook from Cincinnati. There's any number of safeties they could get in round 2 that would be starters for them, and probably nickelbacks as well. Marcus Jones is one of them. But they have plenty of options if they're willing to invest that much in the position. The Niners are a little stuck in the past where you think they win in the trenches. If you think about it, the quicker the ball comes out, the less the trenches matter, if you think about it. So, safety, nickel.
And also, if they play Trey Lance and they roll him out, he would be elusive.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We were looking at it the other way. Forget it. I'm half out of my mind these
It's
days.
okay.
Forget what I was just saying.
But one way to look at it too is like, yes, they need a safety, they need nickelback. Their defense is really good, and it's better than their offense every year. They might, when they don't have a running back who's good, the whole offense falls apart, and Deebo has to play the position. It's a run-first team. Pass protection isn't really great other than left tackle. The quarterback has no experience. A running back, I mean, when Mostert was healthy, he was the engine of the team that went to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
If they could have a guy that good again, they could go back to the Super Bowl with an inexperienced quarterback, with either one of these quarterbacks. So I just think that's a sleeper running back.
I like it. And one thing about Deebo, the problem with using him at running back, he's a play away from ending his career every time he gets the ball.
I mean, if you do what you suggested, where you don't give him any contract and make him play out his rookie deal, then yeah, play him at running back. And if you're not committed to him long term, but as soon as you give him $50 million guaranteed, you probably don't want to do that anymore. That much. I don't think so.
No.
All right.
Name a third position that they might want.
Offensive line. And I don't know what's going on with Mike McGlinchey. I think what the Niners feel is that like they can get by with backup level players or mid-round picks from the past, but I think they're getting it's getting dangerous. You have a good left tackle, you have a backup level left guard, a backup level right tackle. Really, any starter who's good on the offensive line, they might want to consider, because the quickest way for this season to be ruined is for whoever the starting quarterback is to get hit a bunch and get hurt. Can't have that. So offensive line.
Sure. Iggy, what is the status of Aaron Banks?
All of a sudden they say they like him. But last year he wasn't even active. You know what I mean? Like, there are the starters, there's the backups, and there's like the 5 or 6 guys who aren't even trusted to be backups that week. They're inactive. He was that guy every week except for 2, and now they're saying we trust him. He's going to be our starter. I don't know about that. That seems like a hope and a prayer. And then he's going to compete with another guy who was a draft pick last year. Like, that's the best you can do. That's really scary. I mean, look what happened to Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Got hit a bunch, and his career didn't last very long. So I think there's a lot of like analytics that say, well, offensive line isn't as important as it was in the past. Ball can come out quickly. You can sort of protect the quarterback in a lot of ways. Fine, just don't get him hurt. Because 2 years ago, Jimmy got hurt by week 2, and then Nick Mullins got hurt, and they finished the season with C.J. Beathard as their quarterback. So they have a bad track record protecting quarterbacks.
And Iggy, weren't there times when Trey Lance got sacked a lot?
He got hurt twice last year. He got hurt in the preseason, remember? He broke his finger throwing, and then he got hurt in his first start. He messed up his knee.
Yeah.
So offensive line is kind of important. Yes.
Offensive line to me is really, really important.
It's like we just named 4 or 5 different positions. The Niners only have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds. They were probably counting on another one from Jimmy Garoppolo that they didn't get. I'm curious to see what they do. Maybe they trade down and create more picks. They have so many needs. I don't know.
You know, it's easier to trade down if you have a first round pick. It's harder to trade down when you don't.
Well, maybe the 49ers will trade Deebo Samuele and get a bunch of draft picks.
I don't think so.
Jay says, Grant, I eagerly anticipate the first thing that happens when you enter the locker room is you and Jimmy Ward make eye contact, and he just goes, Grant. Did you hear that? This was in Green Bay after they won, and I was there, and he went up to the podium, and before he took any questions, he just made eye contact with me and went, Grant. Like, what do you think of us now, baby? It's pretty funny.
You know, if I were another journalist in that room and he went Grant, I'd be jealous. I would have been jealous.
That's true. I've felt those jealousy moments when athletes talk to us.
I would have been jealous.
JP, $2. Thank you very much. Murphy, $10. Thank you. If the Niners think Trey is a bust, then trading Deebo, blaming it on his cost, and having an out for why Trey isn't good because he doesn't have weapons would be their best chance of saving their jobs. Whoa. That is really thinking down the line there. I do agree that if Trey Lance is a bust, everyone's job security is in question. They went all in with him at a certain point, didn't they? I think they did. He's going to have to be good eventually, I would think, unless they just keep Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hey, Iggy, they went all in with him until they didn't go all in with him.
I know. Ryan and Jennifer Wood said, Grant, thank you for all your content. I look you up at least once a day. Thank you. I enjoy your guests, but your dad has got to be the best of them all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
My dad is the best. Thank you. One more. I think we have more than one more. TB12 says Niners have the opportunity to use Deebo to fill multiple roster deficiencies. One of their moves say they're in their own. Hold on. None of their moves say they're in win now mode anyway, so why not get Young now? Get Brees Hall ASAP. Trading Deebo for multiple players. But the problem is Deebo plays multiple positions. So you have to replace him with multiple players. You got to get a wide receiver, a running back. I think it's hard to replace Deebo. My dad is betting. He was eager to bet me a bottle of wine that Deebo's going to be on. He thought I was going to say Deebo's going to get traded, but no, I'm not that crazy.
No,
I'm just crazy enough to think Jimmy will be on.
They're going to work it out with Deebo Samuele.
They're going to work it out. Murphy says, if we were offered 2 firsts plus other picks for Deebo last year, would we have taken it? We would have taken the heartbeat, true, based on his first 2 years. Have to look at all years, not just last. $25 million a year for Deebo max. Okay. See your perspective. That's the whole show. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Just, it's really a pleasure to be back with you, and it's a pleasure to be back with all of our viewers.
Absolutely. We'll be back next Tuesday, same time, 11 p.m. Pacific, in perpetuity.
11 a.m.
What did I say, p.m.?
Yeah.
I'm a little crazy too, I guess. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you later. Love you, Dad.
Love you, Iggy.